Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ma sha'Allah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum. Wa jazakallahu khaira. Just in Amman Jordan. And it's mentioned one of the potential locations where the 7 young men, they slept for more than 309 years, as mentioned in the glorious book, in the Surah Al-Kahf. MashaAllah, BaarakAllaahu Feekum. And the story of the 7 is famous, subhanallah. These were 7 young men in their early teens, and it's mentioned they started to learn about Al-Islam via a brother who would work in the baths. And this brother, this pious follower of Prophet Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he started to teach them about Al-Islam. And there were 7, and they embraced Al-Islam. Subhanallah. It's mentioned the king of the time, he was an idol worshipper. The people in that era, they worshipped the idols, and the king, he was an idol worshipper. He discovered that these 7 embraced Al-Islam, so he had them called towards his court. He said, they are young, maybe as they mature they will renounce their religion and go back to, one might say, go back to idolatry, that they will renounce Al-Islam. On one occasion, the king, leaves the city. As he's leaving the city, the 7 young men, they see it as an opportunity to also leave the city, because the king is no longer residing in the city, because he's out, he's away from the city. So it's mentioned the 7 young men, they start to travel playing with a ball as they're leaving the city, subhanallah. And on the way they see a dog. The dog starts to bark and follow them. As young people would do, they pick up the stones and they start to throw stones at the dog. But the dog, it continues to follow them. Then it's mentioned the dog, it sits back on its hind legs, and the front paws of the dog are raised. And then Allah grants the ability to the dog to speak. And literally the dog, it says, I am also a believer in Allah. I also worship Allah. So they take that as a sign that they would be protected by Allah. Then it's mentioned they come to a cave. One of them, he says, I know of a cave which my father would use whilst he was shepherding his sheep. So they reside in the cave. Inside the cave they find food and water. They eat the food, they drink the water. Then it's mentioned they sleep a very deep sleep, subhanallah, a very deep sleep. And they sleep in the year, an angel comes twice in the year to turn their bodies. It's mentioned when the sun is at the highest point, it doesn't heat their bodies, it moves around. Their eyes, they don't close, because had it been the case that their eyes closed, then their eyes would be decaying, subhanallah. Anyway, they awaken after 309 years, subhanallah. They awaken and they think, we've only been asleep since the morning. They are hungry. So one of them amongst the 7, he is assigned with the task to go back to the city to buy some food. As he goes back to the city, he sees that prior to it, this land was agricultural land for farming, and now it's all changed. There's castles, there's buildings. Now in the era where he walks back into the city, there is a Muslim king, subhanallah. The king, he hears of the story of the 7. His grandfather taught him the story of the 7. The young man, he approaches, he tries to buy something with an old coin which has the previous king's depiction of the previous king on the coin, subhanallah. They see that he is from a previous era, or maybe they're thinking he's dug an ancient treasure. So they take him to the king. the king, subhanallah, as I mentioned, knew of the story of the seven. So the king, subhanallah, he asked them about the situation. The boy, he mentioned that yes, we were seven, we escaped the town, we embraced al-Islam, the king was due to kill us. The king, subhanallah, he left the city, so we used that as an opportunity to leave the city, and subsequently we hid in this cave. Why is this story relevant to everybody? Why is it that this story is, as is mentioned in the glorious book in Surah Al-Kahf? Because the people of the era that when he awakes after 309 years after they awaken, they are discussing whether on the day of judgment Allah will recreate the people in both body and soul. Some people are denying the questioning of the people. They think that Allah will only question the people with their souls, but the reality is on the day of judgment Allah will recreate the souls with their bodies. So this was the fitna of the time, and this confirmed that actually Allah will recreate the bodies and the soul, and this is how they will be questioned. So there were seven amongst them, and this is mentioned as one of the sites where the seven are respectively they were asleep. Subhanallah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum. So I'll just show you the cave. Alhamdulillah, and we visit as a benefit for the sake of Allah. MashaAllah, from Indonesia. May Allah, Malaysia, MashaAllah. The Malaysian people and the Indonesian people, may Allah bless you. In our house, Bismillah auntie, in our house a long time ago in England, my mother, she looked after a Malaysian brother and a Malaysian sister. The Malaysian brother, he never came back. He was called Salahuddin. The Malaysian sister, she was called Siti. And I tell you this story, my dear auntie. Subhanallah, for about 30 years, we never saw her. Then she came back. She came back to see my mother, subhanallah. And she said to my mother, you treated me like a daughter. So my mother looked after the Malaysians when they came to England to study the religion, subhanallah, study the worldly affairs too. BaarakAllaahu Feekum. I'm from England, my sister, but I have a YouTube channel and you must sign to it. All of you must sign to my YouTube channel. Please share it with your group, because I do everything about Al-Aqsa and travels. I don't put my image in, as you can see, because it's not about me, it's about the places. Akeel, AKEELQUEST. And it's about Akeel Quest. AKEELQUEST. Share with your group, inshallah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum. Wa alaikum assalam wa jazakallahu khaira. Help our dear auntie. Bismillah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum.
وأنا في أحد ما زار الكهف. Sorry, if anyone want to visit the cave, it's really close.
In a few minutes. Bismillah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum. So this is the inside of the cave, subhanallah. They slept, according to some, in this cave, subhanallah. There are other sites too that I mentioned, but khair, we come with the intention for goodness. Alhamdulillah. BaarakAllaahu Feekum wa jazakallahu khaira. And the relevance of the story is that the people in the time when they awoken, they were questioning whether Allah will recreate the bodies with the souls on the day of questioning, on the day of resurrection, subhanallah. And in reality, Allah will question the people in both body and soul. MashaAllah, BaarakAllaahu Feekum. And this is the inside of the cave of the people who slept for more than 309 years, subhanallah. And they were all young when they left the city. BaarakAllaahu Feekum wa jazakallahu khaira. Bismillah. There is also a sign, a stamp of Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi here. Daqiqa Habibi. MashaAllah, sorry. BaarakAllaahu Feekum wa jazakallahu khaira.